Started. All right. Welcome to the Real Estate Titans podcast. Today on the call, we have Nate Dickey, Regional Director for Keller Williams, all of Keller Williams. And why he's here today is because he's a real estate investor. He does condo conversions. I actually went to your class, which was amazing. And he owns about 60 doors. And when I went to his office, an office he owns in Portsmouth, New Hampshire, he's like, I own this building. I own the building across the street. I'm like, I think this guy owns the whole town, which was amazing. And as a real estate investor, it's definitely something David and I strive to do, get more buildings and learn how to do deals. So without a further ado, Nate Dickey.
Hey,
Nate, is there anything that I missed in that intro?
uh, no, that was very flattering. Thank you. No, I think that was it. I don't actively practice really, except for my own real estate. I usually use my agents that are here. I own the Portsmouth office. Got about 550-ish agents currently. Um, so yeah, we cover a pretty big area, and yeah, that's it. So I think you did a great job with that.
All right, awesome. I always Mark introduced me the other day, and when I went up, I was thinking in my head like I'd love to meet the guy he just introduced. That was awesome. The intros always sound amazing, but you definitely live up to all of the hype. So I want to ask you this question about real estate investing. How did you get started investing in real estate, and tell us about your first deal?
I was in high school, and my father and my grandfather were very anti-rental. They were like, "Don't rent, don't rent, don't rent." And I was a terrible high school student. I did get out in the allotted time, and I made it through high school, and that was as far as I went in. I would say formal education. I once I joined Keller Williams, I was back in heavy education for the last 20 years. So I think I didn't stop learning. I just changed how I learned. Um, but yeah, my grandfather and grandfather were very pro not paying rent to anybody. So they kind of ingrained that into me. And when I was 19, I bought a single family house with a buddy of mine in the town I grew up in Plastown, New Hampshire. And it was sort of it was a deal at the time, um, because it was in a spot that residential houses weren't really suited for. It was right on 125, which is a pretty busy road. And we sold cars off the front lawn and stuff like that to pay for it. I bought and sold a few used cars to get the money for my down payment. And yeah, so I bought that was my first deal. And we had a realtor that was not very good. And we couldn't get the deal done, and we didn't know the rules then. So we, as customers, just knocked on the door and made the deal with the seller. Uh, don't do this, by the way, if you're not.
Thanks for saying the don't do this part.
Please don't do this. We went and made a deal with the seller, and then told our agent what to write. Our agent tried to talk us out of it, said it wouldn't. They're never going to accept this. And we're like, yeah, we know, and they obviously accepted it because we made the deal at their table. And that was my first deal, and it was just a bad experience with the real estate agent. My second deal was a lot better. It was I did no money down on a 4 unit,
Wow.
and you could do 80/20 loans. So I did an 80/20 on a 4 unit multi. I moved into it. Um, I sold my interest in the other house, and I had an amazing agent that time. She was very focused on investors. She understood investment. She had investment property, um, and it made me want to think about becoming a real estate agent. A few years later, I became a real estate agent, but started buying more stuff. I tried it right now. I'm trying to buy. I want to get to a point where I can buy a property a month from the
A
income
month?
a month from the property I have. That's kind of my 5 year goal, is to get to the point where the income from the stuff I have enables me to buy a property a month. Right now, I think the deals are on around here, anyways. I think are on single families, just because they appreciate, and we're going to see continued appreciation on them. And I think it's a great time to be buying those. There's less headaches with them. I have a few now, and I'm going to keep buying those. But I actually just put two properties under contract this week, um,
Wow.
that are multis, but as part of a 1031 exchange.
So you told us about your first two deals. First of all, I'd love to buy a property a month because David and I, we have a goal to buy a property a year. But when I went to your class, it got me to think bigger and buy more and have like, for lack of a better word, like less rules on what we buy. So with that being said, you bought a single family, you bought a four family, and then how do you get to the next level? I think when people get to this first level where they have a couple of properties, they're managing them themselves, they can either get scared or they can't come up with a down payment next. And at some point, you have to come up with 20% down, right? So,
Yeah.
how do you get your next couple deals to get over that 10 unit threshold?
Yeah, so investing is boring until you get enough units where it becomes not boring, where you can do it more frequently, right? So I think that there is no magic bullet for that. Um, I think first thing I would do is you said manage themselves. I would not manage anything myself. I don't
Oh,
manage
I like that.
myself. That was a mistake I made early on. If I'm managing my own property, I'm the most expensive property manager that I know. So it doesn't make sense for me to do a bad job at managing it because I do. I have a great management company that is completely hands on. So anything I buy has to be a managed asset. It can't be something that I have to babysit. Because I just don't, it's not a bet. That's not the highest and best use of my time. I had a call today with my property manager. I have a conversation with him every Friday. And we go through, he runs a property management company that I'm a part owner of. And we go through my properties as part of that call. We just switched our strategy on that to make my leases 24 months with an automatic increase at 12 months. So we can save money on the renewal and
Wow.
kind of protect, not have as many turns because you lose your profit and then you usually use the bump in rent when you turn a unit because you got to spend the money to turn the unit. So we're going to add profitability to that. So to get back to your question, you can look for deals with people that have owned property for a long time and maybe willing to give you a mortgage directly. Those are a little harder to find, but if you find those, you can. There are no rules for that. So you might find somebody that's owned a property for 30 or 40 years, or inherited a property, and they want the income, but they don't want to do any of the work. And you can take it over in like a 40-year AM. I've got two properties that are owner financed right now with one's got a 40 and one's got a 45-year AM on it. So it gives you a lower rate. It gives them a good return. There's a balloon typically with a 40-year AM, 10, 5, whatever the customer wants. But that's a way to make deals work where other people can't. Um, if you're looking into the commercial sector, you can do some owner finance. You can do some owner financing of down payments and maybe not come up with all of the 20%, maybe come up with 5%, depending on the town. And there's different programs that are around for that too. So I would make it a mission to talk to as many bankers as you can, commercial bankers. That world is changing all the time, and commercial banking is kind of like the Wild West. The rules apply completely different to that. I have a friend that got his sort of nest egg built up by doing flips, quick in and out flips with hard money. Um, it's about how you do.
I think I muted that. I don't know who that was, but go ahead.
Yeah. So sometimes you can do. I have a friend that did flips, and he did a bunch of flips to get um, his cash position to be able to buy one. So for every 3 flips, he wanted to keep one of them.
That's a great strategy. Yeah. David and I did it by real estate sales. We saved, and then we were able to buy a four family. But I bought my first condo. A lot of people don't know with seller financing. So I want to uncover that a little bit because I feel like a lot of people have no idea what seller financing is and how it works, right? And people don't even realize the seller can give you a mortgage. So at a high level overview, and I'm going to let you answer this question, but a high level overview, the seller, in my understanding, cannot have a mortgage. They own it outright, and then you go in there and you say you'll be the bank and I'll pay you, and they get a note just like the bank would. So in essence, instead of paying Bank of America or a bank a mortgage every month, you're paying a seller just like you would a bank, right? Is that, for lack
Yeah,
of a better word, how it works?
yeah, pretty much. In the one I just did, I actually paid their mortgage off. So they had which worked out to be 10%. So I paid the 10% to pay their mortgage off, and then they gave me a new mortgage on the rest
Of
of the property.
90%. And just to be clear, because I always thought this was true, you have to pay. They cannot have a mortgage, right? Because
They
no,
can't have a mortgage now.
yeah. So they are going to be your bank. All right,
They are
awesome.
going to be your bank. Yeah, you have to satisfy their mortgage. They sometimes though you can just use them for the down payment. As a real estate agent, you can also negotiate your buyer's side commission up to cover part of your down payment.
Tell us about, if you want to tell us, this is one of the most interesting deals I've ever heard of that you've done, how you structured a deal where you've got the down payment and the commission and you were able to make the numbers work. You know what deal I'm talking about, I'm sure.
Yeah, so I did a fairly large commercial deal. I ended up using almost $2 million in commission um, to do the commercial deal. I brought to the table, I think, 40-ish thousand dollars to cover all of the commercial inspections and appraisals and all that stuff because commercial appraisal is more money. And that was all the only money I put into the deal, and it was a $12 million deal. Uh,
That is insane. $12 million deal with 40 grand.
yeah, and it was a deal where I was using the building so I could pay more than the market could pay for it. Uh,
Yes.
so it was a much lower cap rate for me than it would be for anybody else. Since then, we've sort of the market's gone way up, so now I've got a lot of equity in it. So I'm going to probably roll it and take my equity out and do something else with it because I think it's a good time for me to do that. Um, it's pretty you can do a lot of different things, but you have to be always in the market at the right place at the right time to get those deals. Like the problem I think with most investors is they invest part time. Like if you're going to be a real estate investor, it's an everyday thing. Like so every day, whether I'm at work or not, I look at the MLS in the morning. I look at the market. It takes me. I look at the state of New Hampshire because that's pretty much where I'm buying, and I look at a couple border towns in Maine. I do it every morning. It takes me 15, 20 minutes. I usually don't find things I want, but I can tell you, I know pretty much every property that's on the market that's a multi. I look at every multi-family in the state of New Hampshire, and I look at every commercial property that comes across the MLS. Um, that gives me a sense of the market either way, right? So now I can look at something pretty quick and know if it's a good deal or not. I'll take if I get 25 properties in a morning, which hasn't happened in years, but if that was to happen and there were 25, I would probably get them cut down to 2 or 3 in a matter of minutes, and then decide, okay, I want more information on this one. I want more information on this one, and we're starting to get into a place where you can watch price reductions. I'm also pulling single families, but my single family search is much smaller. It's in specific towns that I've been able to kind of figure out that the math works on a rental of about 350 to 400,000 or less on the house. I kind of know where that math is going to work, and I've got some really good towns where there's almost if there's vacancy, essentially you're doing something wrong. Um, and I think that's safe. I like this, and again, back to single families real quick. I think right now for us as realtors, we come across so many of them, and the opportunity to make double digit returns on equity now, where people are getting a little bit skittish um, about buying. I think it's a great time to get in and get those and get out of them in 2 years and just take that profit and then roll it into something better. Your cash on cash return isn't going to be huge, but your equity over time in a short period of time, I think is going to be big. That's my opinion. No, so take that for what it is. But I think it's a great time to be buying single families, and I would also I'd buy them where they're managed, and it's a light lift for a management company, so you might be able to negotiate a better deal um, with the management company on single family houses.
I wrote down something you said, and it's a nugget that I'm going to take away. Sometimes I hear things and I'm like, wow, that resonates. And the problem with most real estate investors is that they do it part-time. I've never heard it articulated that way, but it's so true, right? You're talking about buying a property a month. And even some real estate investors, they own a couple property, like, it's way different than what you're doing. So when you're looking at these properties, it sounds like you're looking on MLS every single day. What criteria is it that you're using? I'm guessing it's something like a hot sheet, right? You're putting in like a criteria to get email updates from MLS.
So MLS is a garbage in, garbage out system, and
Yeah.
it's the data that's put in is put in by humans. So
Mhm.
I'm very general. I it's New Hampshire multifamily, period.
Literally, that's all you get every morning.
Yeah, so I look at that every morning, and then I've got with single families, it's a little different. Single families, it's single family and town. I don't, I don't, I can take an extra minute and figure out if it's a win or not. I have some condos too. Condos are completely hands free. They're depending on where they are. I think they're okay investments. I'm not a huge fan of them. I've got some office condos behind the building I'm in now. I like them because of proximity, but they're they're, they're not great. Uh, Things I look for in I look for mixed use. I identify mixed use properties fairly quickly, and if I'm in an area where the town allows and I can take a commercial unit and make it residential, the opportunity to make a huge uh, profit quick on that is usually there. Most of the towns in New Hampshire that have mixed use commercial, typically the commercial rents for like a half or a third of what a residential apartment would. Um, and if you can convert it and the town allows it, that's easy. That's something that I would try to identify first. And most realtors put those in wrong. Like, and they list them. They don't really identify that as an opportunity with the property when they put them in most cases. So something.
So, where are you finding most of your deals? Is it MLS, off MLS, real estate agents, wholesalers? Like, how are you finding the majority of your deals? Or is it everything?
Yeah, it's all of those. So
Everything.
uh, I've got a relationship with a wholesaler who calls me on stuff. I haven't really bought anything from him, but I'm a resource for him, so he calls me. I think he uses me to set the price for other people. Uh, but that's okay. Like I get a shot at the deals, and eventually he'll have something I want. Um, I pay a little bit more for nice stuff. I'm making an offer today on something that is off market. It's just something that one of my agents brought to me. They knew I was looking, and they asked me if I wanted to look at it. I looked at it. It was amazing. I want to buy it. So so I get some of that too. Most of my deals have come from the MLS though. That's a complete myth that you have to buy stuff off market. I mean, you can buy stuff on the market that's on the market all the time. But if you're not looking at it every day, you're a part-time investor. You're not going to find it. Someone that's looking at it every day is going to beat you. And I look when I don't have money. So I don't have money to buy, which is why I don't buy a property a month right now. But I have to look all the time, so I stay in tune with the market and I know what's going on. So if you're just looking when you have money, you're kind of behind the eight ball. You should be looking all the time. And quite frankly, if you're in real estate and you're not looking every day, what the hell are you doing? You should be you should be looking every day so you can bring the deals to the other people that aren't you when you don't have the money. And
Absolutely.
that's how you make the money to then go buy your own multi later. Or you find somebody that's got a little bit more money than you and you put your little bit of money with their big bit of money and then you go in on the deals with them and get 1% of the deal. Like there's a lot of opportunity in the industry that we're in. I don't know what your makeup of your audience is, but I mean that's if you're a realtor, there's a lot of opportunity for you to invest and you should invest as much as you can.
Yeah, the makeup of the audience is a lot of real estate agents, and this makes me think about something that has come up on the calls previously. What do you think about partnering with people? You kind of mentioned it briefly, like when you should, when you shouldn't, any rules around that, partnerships?
Yeah, don't take anyone if you're gonna be a partner with somebody, don't take anyone's last dollar.
Yeah, love
That typically ends in a problem. I've learned that a couple times. We've taken partners that need the money in 6 months. Most of our deals, if we take partners, it's pretty clear they're not going to see a dime for at least 12 to 24 months. And we have some rules around that. So if we do a deal and we bring in a partner, we're not making a payout until there's at least 6 months of cash, 3 to 6 months of cash. We start with three and then we change it and then we go to six. Um, that's in the bank, and that means total operating cash because I don't want to put myself in or any of my partners in a position where we have to make a cash call um, and cover someone else. So if we have since COVID, it kind of taught us a little bit of a lesson. Like if you have 3 to 6 months in cash, um, you're in a pretty good position and you're not really worried about a lot. I do not have 3 to 6 months in cash in all of my buildings, but we work towards it all the time. And it's a moving target because you may have a cap expense that comes in that hits you. or something that you need that money for. So if I have a 4 unit and I know I've got a tenant in there that's a heavy smoker that's been there for 20 years, that's a $50,000 remodel when he leaves. So I'm keeping that money. I'm having that in reserves plus my regular operating. And if you're really clear with people on that, like this is an investment, it's not a piggy bank for you. Um, and I've ended up having to buy partners out because they needed the money, and that's okay because at the time I could do it. But if you get a lot of properties and all of a sudden everybody wanted out, um, that could be challenging. So it's important to have a prenup when you go into investing with people and make sure that they're clear on the in and the out. Like this is what it costs to go out. This is what it costs to come in. If you go out early, this is what it costs. Like all of those things should be in your agreement. And I would get a good attorney to draft that, spend the money on the attorney. And you can buy something at pretty much any price point in the state of New Hampshire. It just depends on how far you want to drive and what town you want to be in. Like there are multis in Berlin, Gorham for short money. And they cash flow, but they're a lot more work.
I love all the rules you have about investing. Are all of your properties and like you said 3 to 6 months expenses, but not all of them. So is every single building in a separate account, like bank account, and is it in a separate LLC?
Yeah, they're all separate LLCs. I have my interest in most of them are held in a trust, or the trust holds the interest in the LLC. And anything I own with partners are in a separate LLC. That's a weird thing because LLCs are pierceable. People think they're completely protected. With an LLC, you're not. You're better off buying. I mean, you have the LLC. It does do something for you, but get insurance. Get an
Yeah.
umbrella. The umbrella is going to
And,
protect you more than the LLC will.
and that building will be have its own bank account, right?
Yeah, every building has a bank account because it's a separate entity. Um, but the management company takes care of everything. So that's really my those accounts are to hold reserves, and like we cut very few checks out of those accounts. The management company does all that, and I get a P&L at the end of every month that's got all my stuff. So I'm holding the P&L accountable, um, and asking questions around the P&L. So that's a real business. Otherwise, you're a part-time property manager, and if you have another full-time job, you're not a good property manager. You're just it's impossible. You're not going to be.
That's awesome. All right, let's switch gears a little bit and talk about some more high level stuff that I heard you teach in your class. And that's, I know you briefly touched base on this, and that's condo conversion and taking commercial buildings and turning them into residential. So talk about those opportunities, how you seek them, what you look for, and just I guess the opportunity in condo conversions.
Yeah. So a condo conversion is just a division of ownership. So if you own a multifamily, or you see a multifamily or a piece of land or whatever, all it is a legal division of ownership. And we are in a house in New England as a whole. We are in a housing shortage, like we call it a housing crisis. Freak everybody out. It's a housing crisis. We don't have enough inventory. The two Keller Williams offices, the two big Keller Williams offices in New Hampshire, mine and Mark's in Bedford, together before COVID held double the amount of inventory that's available in the entire state right now. So there's only there's 2,200 listings I think today available in the state of New Hampshire. Depending on what expert you talk to, we're 66,000 houses short, and we only build about 3,000 houses a year. So we have a housing crisis. No matter what the economy does, our supply and demand is the supply and demand is going to override that, which is why our single family investments are a really good idea. What we don't have is entry level inventory, because it's not sexy and people don't go after it. So I think my opinion is, and I'm saying this to as many people as I can because I want someone to do it besides just me, is you can take a multifamily house in almost any condition and do the conversion to condos and sell it as condos. And if you're just getting started in investing, or you want to get some paid off investments, you could sell the condos off and keep one. It's a fairly easy process. You need legal condo docs drawn up by an attorney, and you need a survey of the property so the attorney knows what you can divide. And if you're not changing the use or building anything, the town really can't tell you no, because it's just a division of ownership, and it's good for the town. It increases the tax roll of the town because the value of the property goes up when you divide it, and you typically get owners instead of tenants, which is all good for the town.
Any idea of what those numbers are in Massachusetts? You might not know, but I'm
I don't know
curious.
the numbers in Mass, but they're not that. They're actually a little bit worse. Not sorry, Connecticut's worse. Mass is kind of in the middle of Connecticut and New Hampshire, but I don't know the exact numbers.
Brandon Sweeney asked, "What is your take on ADUs?"
I think it's great. I think society, or I think in New England, we're going to see a lot more of that. We're going to see a lot of people moving back into houses, or families moving back together, like it is in Southern California. I think you'll see a ton of that. People turning garages into stuff. I think it's great. I think if there's no restriction on the ADU, where it doesn't have to be a family member, I like that better than some of the towns that have restricted it to must be a family member, which I think will get like booted at some point. But that's what I think of those. So I love ADUs. If I can buy a house with an ADU, I'm all over it. I'd love to do that. Or I find a town that's really um, open to me making an ADU out of a garage. I think that's something I would buy. So I think it's great.
Awesome. Awesome. Quick rapid fire questions. What's the number one book recommendation for real estate investing?
Can I say for real estate investing?
Yep. Or you could say for something else if you want.
I think the book for me for real estate investing, I really like Hold. It's just a collection of stories. I like Hold a lot. And I like MREI. MREI is more of a manual. Hold's more of a wealth book. Which is MREI is that one, the blue one. I mean, that's a great book to fall asleep to. It's an awesome book. There's a lot of really good stuff in it. And if you go to Keller Inc., Keller INK, all the stuff there is probably is invaluable. One of my favorite books for business and building business and leverage is The Founder and the Force Multiplier,
Yeah,
which
I
is
read that.
it's a great book. Adam Hergenrother in Vermont wrote it with his assistant. He's a multimillionaire. She's a millionaire. Like they've owned businesses together. It's a really good book. If I would get the audio, the audio is a little rough because he reads it with her, and they have some banter there that's I think really important for the books. If you haven't listened to that, I would say that's a great book for just leverage and learning how to grow a business. But I think that's a you didn't ask me that, but that's what I think. And
That's
I
awesome.
like the One Thing book too. That's a big one. So for
All
me,
right, cool. What about podcasts?
this one of course. Now I'm
Boom, the Modern American Dream podcast. I think we should end on that note because it doesn't get any better. Thank you so much for hopping on. We really appreciate it. This will be turned into a podcast. I'll send it out to all of you guys. I just stopped.